What have you been up to the last few months?
Pilates, spending time with the kids, been to Cornwall, lots of watching football and analysing our stuff and putting stuff together, ready for whatever comes next. It's at the point now where I'm really starting to feel excited about what's next. I've turned down a few jobs in the last few months.
Yeah, I won't ask you who.
One or two abroad and a couple here, but I felt a little bit hurt about being sacked for the first time, like being really honest. But also I've not been tearing the walls down, I've been really enjoying just having some time.
Hello and welcome to The Rest is Football with me, Gareth Lineker. I'm delighted to say that joining us is one of football's most thoughtful and innovative young coaches. He played for a number of clubs. His longest stint by far was at Norwich. He won 29 caps for Scotland. We'll come to that. He managed at Milton Keynes Dons, then Swansea, and most recently at Southampton, taking them back into the Premier League and then losing his job a few months ago. We'll come to that. It is, of course, Russell Martin. Welcome to my home.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here. What have you been up to the last few months?
Pilates, spending time with the kids, been to Cornwall, lots of watching football and analysing our stuff and putting stuff together, ready for whatever comes next. But generally enjoying a first break in 20 years. So I got really ill when I finished. I think my body's way of punishing me for 20 years of playing and then straight into management. Couple of weeks got really poorly, and then after that I've been enjoying a break.
Poorly, are you all right? Nothing serious?
No, just a bit of flu, proper flu.
Yeah,
not man flu. Like, when people tell me they've got the flu now and they're walking about, I'm like, no, you haven't.
No, you haven't. So you've not kind of distanced yourself from football. It wasn't.
No, I've done a bit of TV and I've watched games. I've taken my boys to football, which has been nice because I've not done that. Obviously, as a player and a manager, really not done that at all. So
can't really do that, can you? Bring them in. No,
exactly.
My boys.
They come to the training ground. Right, that's been good. That was good. But been to a couple of non-league games as well, which they enjoy. So, but genuinely just watching bits of stuff that I think I can take a lot from, and spending time with people I think I can take a bit from. But mostly just enjoying a bit of a break and relaxing a bit.
But getting yourself ready to go again.
Oh yeah. It's at the point now where I'm really starting to feel excited about what's next. I've turned down a few jobs in the last few months.
Yeah, I won't ask you who.
One or two abroad and a couple here, but just because it didn't feel right, and genuinely I just didn't feel ready to go back in. I felt a little bit hurt about being sacked for the first time, like being really honest. But also I've not been tearing the walls down. I've been really enjoying just having some time.
When you say you were really hurt, obviously it was with Southampton. In Milton Keynes Dons, it didn't happen. It didn't happen in Swansea. But as a coach, and as Sean Dyche, I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, saying you're in a job that pretty much 99.8% of you are going to get fired at some point in your career.
Yeah.
I mean, you can count the fingers of one hand, I think, the ones that never do get fired. So even then, even though you know how it works, you found it difficult.
It took me 5.5 years to get sacked somehow, so I lasted that long. And I've left the other two on my own terms, really, with real disappointment and sadness at leaving the other two clubs because I loved it in different ways and they've all been different. But this one, I think I didn't feel... So when I speak to a lot of managers, when they get sacked, they feel ready or they're just waiting for it. And it's like, it's almost relief when they get sacked. With this one, it was... because I signed a new contract in the summer as well. And I felt like we were actually... There was we had something tangible to fall back on, which was the style of play, and they were still doing some brilliant stuff, and the results weren't following. At the start of the season, we knew it was going to be tough, but there were some people really growing, young players, which was part of the job remit. And I went there with Jason Wilcox. We need to bring some young players through and create some assets. So I felt like we were delivering a lot as a group, players, staff, without getting the results, which sometimes happens in football, but I still felt we had something and we were getting better. Yeah. And then it just came on the back of a really tough result against Spurs, and my fault. I felt Spurs were in a bit of a place where a bit precarious as well, and they could be one or the other. And on the night they were brilliant. So there's a lot of learning, but I did feel disappointed, especially after signing a new contract in the summer and feeling like the players were so with us. I think a lot of people feel like at that point it's done, and people were saying to me, have you run out of energy? Do you feel like you need a break? And I didn't. But I've tried to make the most of having a break. Yeah.
Did you sense it was coming though, or was it a sudden shock? Because I spoke to Sean Dyche. He says, "Well, you can tell. You can tell it."
I think the last 2 or 3 weeks, about 4 weeks before I got sacked, it was like, I think we're at the point where we probably need to get backed publicly And I probably should have said it as learning for me, really. I should have said to the owners, like, one way or the other, we need to really either be backed and talk about the stuff that we are doing well, because people only care about results. So like the season before, I was well aware if we didn't win the playoff final, I get deemed very differently. The job I did at Southampton or doing at Southampton gets deemed very differently. So success is
but
the fine margins.
It might have been for the best.
Well, yeah, look at Dan. So Daniel's still in the job now.
Yeah.
So he's been in the job longer than me, and we beat him in the final. But actually, he stayed in the job and is now still in the job, and they'll probably get promoted this year.
The Championship's massively different to the Premier League now, though, isn't it? The
Huge,
golf is big. I mean, the last 2 seasons, it's almost certain that the 3 teams that got promoted will all immediately be relegated.
Yeah, I do think it will change again. I do think it will, but I think it's just so much short-termism. I think clubs will there's only a certain amount of way they can go. So you can do it like Forest, and not many teams will do that, where you gamble and you spend a lot of money. Or you can do it with continuity and maybe come back down and then go back up, and you have a bit more experience and you learn together, which was what I thought might happen, which has happened at Burnley, and then Vincent left, but I thought might happen with us, which was the conversations early on. It'll be tough, but if we do get relegated, we'll be together. We've got promoted already before, and we'll have a lot of young players coming through and players that know and understand. So, I do think it is tough, and it is really, really tough. And also the mentality of winning every week or being expected to win and then not doing that, and also the fear that players have already. So we took the squad we had, and I think people thought it was a bit of a tap-in for us to get promoted at Southampton, but 19 players lost. Yeah. They got the biggest profit in world football that summer, selling talent. Romeo Lavia, Tino Livramento, Prowsey left. Yeah. A lot of really talented player, Nathan Teller, players that have really helped us. And if we kept them, then it would have. But they had to earn money to go again. And then we go into the Premier League knowing it's going to be really difficult. But I can't keep saying to lads it's going to be difficult. So I was trying to convince all the time that, because I really believed that they could. And there was moments where we were so dominant in games against really good teams.
At City particularly.
Yeah, I felt like this is enough evidence for you to show we can do it, but we couldn't sustain it, or we couldn't score when were on top of momentum in the Premier League. So important. And I think that's the bit when the lads realise we are literally playing at the peak of our potential or the best of our capability, and we still can't quite get there. And then it becomes really difficult to convince people. And we had half a squad that had been relegated already, so the fear is there. And then half a squad hadn't played there, so there's already a bit of fear in them as well. So the energy to keep convincing people is almost frustrating. It's like, I really believe you can do it, but then having to convince the fans, the owners and the players. But my sole focus was the players, and couldn't quite convince them enough.
No, how did it come about? How did they? I mean, I asked Sean Dyche this, and he says it varies. But how did they actually do it? Did they do it face to face?
I knew it was coming. So I felt it a couple of weeks before, and I said to the lads at Spurs, we're 4-0 down at half time. 5-0. Madders scored. So James, a friend of mine, and not that night, but he actually apologised after. But I went in thinking the time was done, but there was another minute. And I needed to go to the toilet and compose myself before doing the team talk at 4-0. And then my assistant walked in and went, it's 5. And I thought he was joking. And he said, oh no, it is.
It's not the time for a joke.
That's not, But he picks his times to sort of lighten the load. And then, so I walked in and said to the lads, listen, I'm getting sacked tonight. So if it was me and the owners, I look at that performance and I think, okay, we're at the end of the line, really, at the end of the journey. So I said, for 45 minutes, please don't end it in a 9. It can't be like that. You've done too much for us. I feel too much pride in you and too much love for you. I hope you can reciprocate that for the next 45 minutes and actually dig in and defend. So tactically, we spoke about a couple of things. And it was an out-of-body experience watching the second half. It was a surrealist. Felt so detached from it. I knew what was coming while trying to prepare myself. And I felt I'd actually like to have a bit of that in my next job on the sideline, rather than being really, to look at it from a different perspective, not to feel detached from it, of course, but and I had a bit of admiration for Ange and the way he watches the game, because he's really calm. He steps back a little bit, and I'm so involved in it. And actually, there was a bit of learning for me in that. And then after the game, I spoke to the guy. I said, "Thanks for everything. I'm not sure what's going to happen now. I'm pretty sure I've got an idea." And so I went into a press conference and I said to the head of media, Jordan, before, I said, "Look, what's happening?" He was like, "We've done the statement." So it was a really quick press conference for me. And he said, "But you need to go upstairs." And I was just like, can they not just tell me in the morning? Release the statement, it's fine, we'll chat in the morning. But we did it with the owners upstairs.
That's quite unusual to do it straight after a game.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've not had any experience with it. When I spoke to a few managers,
I've been in this business for a long time, watching football, and it's very rare. It does happen occasionally.
It's actually the reason. Is emotional.
It's actually the reason that we always do Match of the Day live.
Yeah.
And people still go, "No, you don't do it live." Yes, we do it live, because of the fact that if a manager loses his job after the game on a Saturday night and it's on the news And then we go on and with pre-recording, we don't mention it, we look stupid. So it is very rare. I can only remember a couple of times that actually happened. I want to come back to Southampton and later, but this is obviously we're going to talk about your life as well. You grew up in Brighton. And what was the early life like?
It was interesting. It was colourful. It was busy. I would say busy house. So 4 boys. It was turbulent. Like it was, not very. It
was difficult, wasn't it?
Yeah. In some ways it was, but it's also like it's given me a lot. A lot of. I'm really grateful for a lot of it. There was too much violence. Probably it became a bit normal.
And that was
from my dad to my mum.
Really?
And then
you witnessed that.
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah.
That must be. How do you deal with that as a child?
Well, so a lot of my childhood was spent on trying to placate the adults in my life. So very early on, I recognised that I had some level of opportunity to impact my dad enough for it to not get to that point. So, or to talk my mum down from the ledge where it would go beyond and then there was no turning back. So it was very tense, or a lot of suppressed feeling a lot of the time, trying to sort of read body language, which actually gave me, I think, in a leadership role as well, I've tended to take it on. I was captain for most of the clubs I played for because I think it's given me a bit of intuition around body language and energy and feeling. So I'm grateful for that side. I'd rather it didn't happen like that. But a lot of it was trying to protect my little brother or to try and shield him from that a little bit. We were close in age, but I felt very, in my mum, really protective early on. And my dad had the problem with my dad was he had the capability to be amazing, gregarious, really likeable. But the gap between him at his best and worst was far too big, really far too big. And he was a big gambler. So if the day very much depended on
how he'd done it at the bookies.
And then he worked nights in a taxi, so you couldn't make a sound in the morning. And so it was very much like eggshells a lot of the time, and spent a lot of time outside bookies, so kicking the ball up against the wall.
Really?
And just some really colourful characters.
He went to prison though, didn't he?
Yeah, early on in his life. And then, we spoke about that. Towards the end of his life, he was very regretful, mellowed a lot, changed a lot. So I try to have empathy for him because he's
Did you forgive it?
Yeah.
Did your mum?
No, never. But I don't think it's helped. Like, I love her dearly, and she'll probably listen to this, and she fancied you a long time ago, so she'll be happy with this one. But I think she might still do. I'll ask her. But
I don't hit anyone. I never hit anyone.
Yeah, she's a brilliant woman, and she's so tough and so strong. So but it's, of course, she was with him for 27 years, and for the kid, and they had a kid at 17. Her life was, she grew up in the council estate, really tough, and but she's an amazing woman with us. When I look at like my dad and his brothers and what came before him, I had a lot of empathy for my dad when I understood his upbringing.
It's often
and he saw the same thing. But I've seen it now, and I don't want to continue that. So you have to break the cycle. You keep repeating the same one. So I feel like it's and we're all really different, us boys. So we all took different roles on, and 2 of us excelled at school, and 2 of us didn't finish. So like we're so different, but we always sort of stuck together through those tough moments.
Did you ever confront him, you and your brothers?
Yeah, a lot. And in the end, so like my mum moved out when I was 15, I think. So then together we sort of said to Dad, you're gone as well. So from that age, my brother's 14. My older brother took us on in the house and kept the house going. So I worked cleaning pubs to try and chip in, and I worked at the spa, the shop over the road, the co-op up. Yeah, so I was, we were all busy, and I was training 3 nights a week. To jump on train, but everyone sort of dug in and chipped in. But it was a difficult, really difficult period.
Yeah, my research said you were cleaning pub toilets.
I was, brass on the door. I was proud of it. I was good at it.
I was an apprentice. I needed glasses. I had to do the toilet, so I know what that's like.
It's how it worked out. I needed glasses. That was good for me because I did it the first day, and the guy, I think he was going to sack me on the spot. So he walked me around and said, "This is not finished," and I couldn't see it. So I went and got an eye test, and I was short-sighted. Explain why I wasn't very good at football.
Well, I was going to ask. It's like Mike is pretty blind; he can't see anything, so it doesn't happen. When did football start to be important?
Oh, early on. I watched my brother was at Watford as a young kid, so we're travelling a lot to go and watch him, and from the age of 4 or 5, and I always played a year or 2 above my age group, so I was playing for a team really early on. And my dad, in some ways, he was great, but in some way, I would never do what I did with my kids that he did. So he would drop us, me and my brother, a mile from home, and it was dark, and tell us to run home, and we had to be back at a certain time. And he put a lot of pressure on us boys because he was a good footballer, a good boxer, all this stuff.
So he was a kid. Classic pushy.
Yeah. But really, if you didn't play well in the car on a Sunday, also with that, on a Sunday you had the ability to make the day a good day, to keep him. So there was pressure, and he managed my brother's team, not mine. So some games he wouldn't be at my games. So my brother hit a lot harder than I did.
Yeah. Do you prefer it when he wasn't there?
No, because I tried to do everything in spite to prove that I could do it. So like my reaction, and it built a lot of resilience in me. Physically, the ability to feel physical pain and to keep going, but also like emotional pain and a tolerance for it. My brother he couldn't quite deal with that, and I sort of used it as spur. I go, no, I can do that. I'll prove to him I'll do that. Because sometimes it's a bigger drive as any. I've been in dressing rooms where it's the same. And some people just do it in spite of the leader, which is crazy.
Yeah, it really is. When did you know you were good?
At football, I've never felt good. Genuinely.
So
really? No, I knew I always played a year above my age group, so I'd never had anything to compare with. But I didn't play for Brighton. I played for the Brighton schools. All the others were with the Albion at the time. And I wasn't. And I sort of tried to blame the fact my dad was a bit of a loose cannon and probably didn't fit in very well. But probably because I wasn't quite good enough. I felt fitted in everyone because I'd just run and go for a run. And if there was tension at home, I'd take the dog and just run. Yeah, I never felt like the best player when I was in my score and all that stuff you do, don't you? And I used to score hat. I started as a striker. We all did. You stayed there because you were good enough, but the others have to work our way back. Yeah, look how smug he is because he stayed there, golden boots, but not everyone can do that. And so I ended up then playing at the back, and I played for I never got in Sussex schools team and stuff, so I wasn't the best.
Yeah, I was exactly the same, to be honest. I never got in the Leicestershire schools team.
Yeah,
I was too small. I was tiny, but your first opportunity was what, Brighton? You got involved with them as your local club? Not for long.
I think I was at college and they invited me in on a non-contract a couple of days a week, so I was playing all right and playing men's football at that point. But it just it was on the back of my mum and dad breaking up and having to get there a few days a week on my own. And I got subbed at Leyton Orient, so I came on as a sub at half time and 67 minutes got subbed off. And I remember speaking to Martin Hinchwood at the time, and his grandson's playing for the first team now, and his son Adam's manager of York and doing a really good job. And I remember him saying to me, what do you want to do? Because you look like a shadow of yourself. And I was. And fair play to him. And I said, I want to. And then I bumped into him about 10 years later, and I was playing the Premier League in the Sainsbury's opposite my nan's house, and we had a chat about it. But yeah, it was, I knew at that point it wasn't for me then. So I went back to college, and then Wycombe was I wrote to every club in the Football League, actually. I was going to go to American Scholarship.
Ask for a trial? Or
I licked the stamps. My brother wrote it.
It's funny, I get asked for advice from youngsters. Even on the podcast, we've had questions. How do we get seen? How get seen? I mean, generally, you will get seen if you're exceptional. But my advice was, write to every football club. Just do it. And you actually did that.
We did, yes. Typed it up, and then 92 envelopes. He had a bit of handwriting. He wrote them. I licked the stamps, and that was it. And we got 3 replies. One was Swansea, which obviously played part later on in my career. Bristol Rovers and Wycombe. And Swansea and Bristol were too expensive to get to, too far away, so I went to Wycombe. That was literally the choice.
By this stage, did you think you were good?
No, I thought I was going to America. So I had a scholarship agreed because I played for the England colleges team, which I loved.
Did you have imposter syndrome, do you think?
The whole way through my career. Yeah. I was just always like, I'm going to be fittest. I'm going to work the hardest, be busy, as they call it. I saw it as being professional. But every time we signed a right back or a centre half when I played there, every new manager that came in, I thought, this is the moment.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Really?
And I just felt that my whole career, like literally pressure. And even when I played at Norwich pretty much every game for 10 years, and I never felt comfortable. And when I say that to people, they're like, what? I remember saying it to Nathan Redmond once, we were talking about it, and he was like, well, you literally like the king of Norwich. And I was like, no, but I never felt.
No, you were the Cafu.
Norfolk Cafu.
That's what I mean. It doesn't get any better.
Lasted about a season, and then I managed to get a song out of it for about 6 years, I think. But it was. I never felt. I was never the best player, so I was going to be the hardest work and try and add value to everyone around me. So that was. And somehow I ended up doing it in the Premier League and playing for my country.
How does that work? I'm jumping forward a little bit here, but how does that work in terms of the fact that you never really, really believed in yourself as a footballer, but you clearly really believe yourself as a coach?
And I feel I've always wanted to be a coach and a manager, and I feel my football career was preparing me for this. So I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yep.
And I was just really fortunate I was able to live a dream. And it was a dream, like playing in the Premier League or even I remember playing for Wycombe, my debut against Cambridge 6 weeks after I played in the College Cup final and thinking, if this is it now, I've played in the Football League, one game. I remember this. At least I can say I did it. Yeah. At that point, I still didn't believe I was going to be. And I think it took me 4 years at Wickham after playing about 100 games going, actually, I'm a professional footballer. I'm going to make a career out of this. I don't know where it's going to go. But as a manager, I felt from the age of 25, 26, I want to be a manager. And like I was opinionated and I would question managers, but I think I tried to understand all the time why we were doing something.
Would you have signed yourself?
At what age? At what age?
Any age you like. At any point in your career, you as a manager, would you go, I want Russell Martin?
Not on the pitch, in the dressing room probably, yeah. Not on the
for
pitch.
The dressing room.
Yeah, for the dressing room, yeah. Patting myself on the back. But no, I think I always had a really good relationship with young players because I really tried to help them on their journey. And it was a problem for some managers that the further on in my career I got, the fact that young players would come to me or I had to go to the manager with a lot of people's problems or try and sort stuff out became a bit of an issue for other managers, for sure.
Life at Norwich, it's a good football club, Norwich, isn't it? And
really good.
You're obviously very popular there.
Sometimes.
Was that the highlight? I mean, you went on to play for Scotland for 29 times.
Yeah.
29 caps. Hang on a minute. Scotland.
Yeah.
How?
Proud Scotsman. And my dad, so my nonna and my granddad were having difficulties with their marriage. So they decided to move to Scotland because my granddad had a brother that she thought might be able to look after him and keep him in check a little bit. Yeah. And my dad was born there. She was pregnant. So he was born in Scotland, in Irvine Hospital in Ayr. Yeah. And they lived in Kilmarnock. And didn't last very long. She was like, no, we're going back. I think my granddad still misbehaved in Scotland was the point. So they moved back to, she was like, if he's going to keep doing it, I'm moving back to Brighton because it's by the sea and I like it there. So we moved back.
Yeah. So how did he
my dad enabled me to play for Scotland. I said to him, it was the best thing he did for me.
Did it take you by surprise when Scotland got in touch? Did you go to
just play for Scottish managers throughout my, so like at Wickham I had John Gorman, then Paul Lambert, Tony Adams just before, and then went to Peterborough with Darren Ferguson, then back with Paul at Norwich, then Alex Neil at Norwich, and then obviously the Scottish manager. So it was Paul Lambert said, do you have any Scottish in you? I said, funny enough, my dad was born there. So then he rang the Scottish FA and said, you're going to get into 21s. Yeah. And I think they came and watched me and I had a terrible game at Wrexham. I gave a penalty away and he was like, you're not going to get in there yet, but we'll get you in there. So they knew from that point that I was eligible for Scotland. Yeah. And then I got the call back under Paul in the Championship for Norwich.
You feel Scottish then, did you?
I did 6 times a year, 8 times a year. No, I did. I love playing for them. Yeah. And I sang the anthem with everything I had. So I've still got family up there.
Flower of Scotland.
Flower of Scotland. Great anthem. It's a great anthem. It is a brilliant anthem. Yeah. So, but I remember having to learn the words to it because I knew the tune and I knew the main bit. But I did, and I was thinking, I need to learn the words because he wants us to sing it. So Gordon wanted us all to sing it. So I was like, I remember being in the toilet before the game going, I forgot this right, because when they pan across, I really enjoyed it. Exactly, yeah. But I did really enjoy it. Yeah. And I love playing it. International football is so different. So I enjoyed the intricacy of it and the different, like the cultural context of different nationalities, what they stood for. And I always felt like, even going to like Macedonia and Croatia, especially for such a small nation, it was interesting to me that they had a set way. And in Britain, on the whole, we still didn't quite have something. It was hard work, but you'd go there, and some of the technical capability and the tactical stuff was fascinating.
Quick choice: if you manage England or Scotland, who would you take?
Well, yeah. I'm going to ask. Well, actually, I don't think Scottish people want to take claims from me anyway. So
that's a brilliant answer.
We'll forget about it.
Okay, we'll take that as England. There you go. Who knows down the line? You mentioned a few of the coaches you played for. Who's the most influential on you of how you review the game?
Yeah, Paul for sure. So Paul Lambert, I played for him for 2 years at Wickham and then three at Norwich, and then
he took you to Norwich, did he?
Yeah, he did, and I nearly went with him to Villa, but him and Norwich had fallen out, so that was never going to happen at that point. But so the first time I played for him, I never thought I'd play again. It was a pre-season game. I was playing centre midfield. At that point, I'd played everywhere. For 2 years at Wickham under Tony, I'd played in midfield. John Gorman, I'd played left back, right back, centre midfield.
You helped you as a coach, having played everywhere.
Yeah, definitely, massively. Yeah. Trying to understand what people need, and I do that now a lot as a coach. I put people in different positions in training that have a relationship with each other to get them to try and understand. So like at number 6 and centre halves, I do it a lot. And I think young players should play in different positions as well, just so they have an understanding of what they need and when they need it. So if a centre half needs a number 6 to come and arrive, number 6 needs to understand why. So then when they play a centre half and they get impressed and they feel a little bit of pressure and tension, they understand why it's so important, the timing of the arrival. So Paul was just incredibly strong character. He had massive aura, presence, but also like I feared him, but I loved him. I think that's a really difficult balance. So he could make me feel 10 feet tall and the best player in the country, and 30 seconds later make me feel like I was terrible. And because I played for him a long time, if there was a real issue, he'd come for me a lot in the dressing room, and I sort of understood where it came from because he knew I could accept it. And lads were like, well, he's played for him a long time. If he can go for us a bit, then everyone's sort of open. Yeah. But he was just brilliant.
How was that, though, for you?
The aggression that he had sometimes, I was so used to growing up, so that was fine. And I always performed better for managers where I was really clear where I stood. And with him, I never felt comfortable, but I knew he trusted me because I played every single game without any real, but I never felt safe, like in terms of position, but I did play every game. So I feel like he brought the best out of me, and it was because the style of play it was just all out. We're not going to change for the opposition. This is what we're going to be all the time. And even when we got to the Premier League, that was fascinating for me because we got promoted League One Championship straight away to the Premier League. Right. And he was like, we are going to keep doing this because you are brilliant at it. And we're young and we're hungry. And even after a 5-1 defeat at Man City, we go and beat Spurs 1-0 the week after because he was so consistent and set on, no, this is us, this is what we're going to be.
Is that what you, I mean, because the one thing...
Stubborn like him.
Well, yeah, stubborn is possibly the word I was thinking of.
No, I think he had conviction. He had a lot. He had real conviction.
Belief in the way he wants to play the game.
And the process of doing it, we just worked hard. We worked really hard. Yeah. So, for him, he was the most influential. And then you get different things from everyone. So Chris Hughton was so organised and such a good man. Yeah. And the way he treated people, I took a lot from him. Alex Neil, the clarity out of possession that he brought. And as a 33-year-old manager coming from Hamilton to us in the Championship fighting for promotion, he was incredible the way he took it on. So I had a different relationship, and Darren Ferguson was excellent, like really brilliant. I really enjoyed working for Darren a lot. So you take everything, and I kept notes all the way through my career about stuff I really liked, stuff I didn't like, sessions I liked, sessions I didn't, because I knew I wanted to be. So I did my coaching badges fairly early. I knew I wanted to be a manager.
You started really quite young.
I started at 18, yeah.
18,
yeah. And then I did my, then 22, then 26.
It's like a beckoning, wasn't it, really? It was...
Well, I was hoping it would get me there at some point. Yeah. Whilst formulating like more clarity on what I want from my team, or what would be important to me, or how I want it to look, if that makes sense.
It makes absolute sense. And I want to talk all about that, your playing style, how it developed and everything. But let's take a little break because I'm going to put the food on. Because I'm cooking for you. Bit of,
I'm looking forward to it.
So, and it's vegetarian because I know you're quite fussy on your food.
Fussy, yeah. I was more fussy a while back, but I'm getting better.
Good stuff.
This episode is brought to you by Now. Golf's major season is here. The Masters is coming. It's a great time of year. I'm very excited.
You love it, Gary. There's always a great story, isn't there?
Oh, yes, there really is in the Masters. A few years ago, of course, Tiger Woods' incredible comeback after his injuries. There are so many brilliant memories of the Masters. I was lucky enough to work there for a few years as well, covering it. It's just an extraordinary event. I always get so excited for it.
And you're a big fan of Rory McIlroy, aren't you, Gary? How's he going to fare this year?
Yeah, I am a big fan, but he's going into this tournament in great form because he's won 2 times already this season, 2 good events. Fingers crossed for Rory.
And you're better off watching than playing now, aren't you, Gary?
That is definitely true, Micah, and I love watching it. I put it in my diary to make sure I don't double book something. The Masters, 4 days of golf in perfection. Watch it all unfold exclusively live on Sky Sports. Available with no contract on Now.
Welcome back to The Rest is Football with me, Gary Lineker, and today Russell Martin. Russell, we kind of finished towards the year end of your football career, and then you had this lifelong purpose to go into coaching. How did it actually come about to get your first job? That must be the hardest bit, isn't it, to actually get a job?
Yeah, it was in the kit room at MK Dons after a game. So I'd signed there the previous season in January to help them get over the line. Paul Tisdale signed me, and Pete Winkelman didn't actually want to sign me at that point because of my age, and I was...
How old were you?
33. Yeah, 33. And I was well past my best, but I still had a little bit to give. And we got promoted on the last day of the season. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. And Paul Tisdale was great with me. He let me manage my body a little bit because we trained on AstroTurf a lot of the time, and he was really good. And then we had a really bad run of results. My hip driving from Brighton a lot and staying up and wasn't very good. So I spoke to Paul about, I was probably going to leave in the January and retire and start coaching. And then in October, November, the results weren't very good at all. I wasn't playing very much because I was transitioning out slowly. And then it was after a game, I can't remember, I was on the bench and I was running on the pitch and the physio came and got me and said, you need to come, the chairman wants to speak to you right now. So I thought, maybe something's happened. And Pete can be very instinctive. And so I went into the kit room and he said, I've sacked everyone. So I thought, okay. He said, I want you to do it. I said, all right. So I just presumed he meant for the week or two until he found, and I just said, how long for? And he said, oh no, I want you to do it. He said, I spoke to everyone at the club. So I didn't know in the week before that he'd spoke to a lot of the staff at the club and a few of the senior players.
So you never ever had to go to an interview?
No. So and then he offered me the job there and then for years, and he's a brave man. So he felt he'd done well on his instinct previously. Roberto Di Matteo, Carl Robinson went really well for him, giving people a chance the first time. And he just went, I'm going with everyone wants you to have it. Just keep us up this season. And even if you don't, we'll stick with you. Just build a style of play for us and bring some young players through. He said, I want to feel like I've got my team back. That's what I've been known for. And I said, I'll give it a right go. I lost the first 4 games, but he was...
Did you?
Yeah, he was great, yeah. Just had to show him every game. Sort of, I remember the first game, we were great for 20 minutes and then just went. Then it was like half an hour. Then it was 45 minutes. And then Pete was amazing. I'm really grateful to him. Really and he would come in after games and tell me exactly what he thought. So I'd sometimes go crazy. Like, it was too many passes one week, then it wasn't enough passes the next week, and then it was... But
he was the owner?
Owner and chairman, yeah, amazing, yeah. Pete Winkelman, yeah. He's just sold the club recently, but he obviously took... Wimbledon was gone and he took MK Dons to MK and built the stadium. Amazing what he did.
So just let me ask you, did you go in kind of day one with a vision of how you wanted the game to be played?
Yeah.
And it's the same one that...
Yeah, pretty much.
You've kept
obviously
going.
It's evolved and it changed. So we've had 3 teams that look pretty much the same. If you look at the data, they've dominated the ball and they've pressed high, but they've all been really different because of the personnel and the characters involved.
I've actually been doing some digging. I've got a bit of research here. You coached a British record 56 pass sequence prior to a goal whilst in charge of MK Dons.
And everyone says we should have scored after 12, but we went backwards. But the boys were really proud of it. It became a real... Yeah. So like the narrative at the time was we're in League One, pitches weren't great, and we were doing... And there was mistakes on the way to the process. And I remember Sky Sports News showing one, we conceded a goal playing out from the back at Portsmouth. And the next morning it was perfect. I showed the lads all the times that we played out and had big success from it, and one of them being the goal. So it became part of their story and their narrative, and it was the team's story. But from the first day, I said, listen, I'm your mate. So I've been in the dressing room. It's really difficult for somebody to transition, but I'll be the same. Call me Russ, call me whatever you want. Some chose to call me Gaffer because they wanted to separate.
Was that your first meeting, did you say?
Yeah. And I said, like, you know me really well because you...
Is it odd going from being a player to coach immediately?
It was the most nervous I'd been, which is weird because I knew the guys, but standing in front of them on this side in a different colour kit all of a sudden... Yeah. Felt really different.
He'll probably be an arsehole.
but I think some of them, it was confronting because I'd seen some of them at their worst. So it wasn't going very well. Some of them hadn't been the best professionals they could have been for a month or two. Yeah. So all of a sudden, so I chatted to them all individually as well within 2 days to say, and I thought I was myself, but the change in some of them already because of the dynamic shift, and I was the one who would take their opportunity away or give them it, becomes very different.
Were they different with you then?
Yeah, so I struggled with that at first. It was like, why can't I'm being the same with you? Yeah. Why can't you be the same? But now I had to step in their shoes and it's completely different. And I remember playing with players that became coaches and you're going, he's changed. Actually, it's just the dynamic changes.
Yeah.
So I tried to be exactly the same, try and be in the dressing room a little bit and have a bit of fun. And I said, we're literally going to look for 4 things in the next 2 weeks to be a bit more aggressive without the ball, to have a bit more of the ball, and lads, we're going to layer it on after that and it's going to get better. But by the end of it, the aim is to get to a point where you are really comfortable trying to dominate the ball high up the pitch and pressing really aggressively.
Where did you playing ethos and this sort of tactic, where did it come from?
I think just when I played against...
Because he's not very English or Scottish or British.
I get told all the time, but I think it's when I played international football and played against Germany during the era of Pep being there at Bayern, which was fascinating. And then playing against all these different nations and having a different way. And the football I enjoyed watching. So the best team ever for me was the 2008 Barcelona team. They were just incredible, incredible. Yeah. And then being fascinated by why. So watching a lot of it and trying to understand in a certain way.
Players help.
Is it just the best players? Yeah. Or can you try and emulate that in your own way.
It's funny, I was watching some clips today, some going back. I just have to bring it up because we've had this conversation before about the number 6 role that there's not really English players play it like Busquets.
Beautiful.
Busquets in that role. I mean, I was
Amazing.
watching a load of clips today. I'll put it on my story actually,
Amazing
but
player.
it was incredible.
Yeah. One of the best. And so just from what I enjoy watching, because I don't think I could coach a team that I don't believe in and I don't enjoy or feel connected to. I just don't think I could do it. I think I can coach it. I can coach being solid and pragmatic. I know I can, but I need to really convince or to really deliver it properly. I need to be able to believe in it with energy So it was that. It was playing against top teams in the Premier League and going, why are they so much? Or actually playing against teams. So like Swansea was the perfect. Norwich and us got promoted.
How did going from MK Dons to Swansea?
It was 4 days before the start of the season. We assembled what I thought was a brilliant squad. They finished third, MK. We left and they still finished third. Liam did a great job, Liam Mantle. But I felt we were really ready to compete. We'd had a year and a half. First year to try and stay up, we did. Then we finished 13th, played some amazing football, but needed to add some players. And that year we did. We added some real quality. Matt O'Reilly, Harry Darling, Scott Twine, Troy Parrott, bless him, signed, and I left the next day. I still didn't think I was going to leave. And then got the call from Swansea saying, look, we've taken a while over this, but we've identified you because of the style of play. We want this back. I played against Swansea when they were coming through the leagues as a player. And I always felt like
Brendan Rodgers and people like that.
Yeah. And I always felt, so like Roberto at the start. Yeah. So I always felt they were going to last longer than us. It was more sustainable because when we played them, it was always the hardest game. And it was like these players that we played against in League Two, so Leon Britton, I played against him at left back, he was a right wing, and we just had like a bit of a fight for 90 minutes really. And then all of a sudden he's gone from that to looking like Busquets and Iniesta in the number 6 role playing in the Premier League. So it was fascinating. And I thought that's purely down to having a way and sticking with it for a period of time. Yeah. So they stayed in there a lot longer than we did. And actually I think they end up getting out of the Premier League because they completely lost their way for a bit. And again, a few of the Premier League crept in managers that probably weren't suitable to their style that got them there and all that. So then I wouldn't have left MK for anyone, I don't think, because we got the club to such a good place because it was Swansea and I felt their style of play was aligned. They become successful doing that. And then when I spoke to them, I was like, it makes sense, but it was so difficult to leave MK. It was horrible. 4 days before the season as well. Yeah, I felt...
Do you feel like a traitor?
Yeah, because it wasn't like planned either. It just really, it happened quickly. And I remember sitting with my group of staff going, and I was the one going, I'm not sure we should do it. But they were like, is it out of fear? And I was like, no, but we've got this to such a good place. Yeah. And they were going, well, why can't you do it again? We deserve the opportunity. You should take it. And it was difficult. And Pete was really angry at the start. But since then, we've had good chats and he understands. And he's been actually sent me messages when we got promoted to the Premier League saying how proud he was.
Was that a tough conversation?
Oh, yeah, it was horrible, yeah. And to be fair, he tried everything to keep us. He was great. But it was like, it wasn't just me, it was my staff as well. It could improve their lives a lot and give us a chance in the Championship.
Yeah. How was Swansea?
Great, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. The first season was difficult. We took over a team that lost in the playoff final. Most of that team had gone. The budget had been cut in half pretty much. So I knew it was going to be difficult, but it was an amazing club, amazing experience. I loved the place, like the Gower and the Mumbles.
South Wales derby against Cardiff went quite well a few times.
The people were amazing. Honestly, it's one of the best days of my life. The fourth time we did that, because it was an amazing stat. No one had ever done it in the history.
Double, 2 seasons running.
Yeah, no one had done it once, which was mad for that. Yeah, so it's a crazy stat. So the first time we did it, how much it meant to the city and the people that work there, because they all support Swansea. Because they're not going to move to Swansea to go and work there, and like it's pretty much the staff, everyone's from there and support them, and they really care. And they were amazing with us, the people. Like really, honestly, my kids loved it. I loved it. The place I couldn't speak highly enough of. It was just had difficulty trying to. We got the club to 10th in the second season in the Championship, which I felt was a real achievement because the budget had been cut again, and we lost a couple of really key players.
How hard is it when you're coaching a side and you have to cut a budget? Because you must know, it must be difficult when you know that that's going to seriously weaken your chances of progress.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I think we built that into the narrative of the players as well, that it's like financially we're not in the place we were and it's going to be more difficult. But actually we did really believe, we believe in this group so much. It's just a really small group. And in some ways that gave us a lot of strength because it wasn't too big to manage. You have to play a lot of games in the Championship.
Yeah,
you do, which was difficult at times. But honestly, I'm as proud of MK and Swansea as I am at promotion at Southampton with the job we did and the culture we built and how the players played in the last 10 games at Swansea, 11 games, got us the job at Southampton. They were, honestly, some of the stuff they were doing. remember going back to Carrow Road, we won 3-0 with Swansea.
Yeah.
And the pride I felt in that performance, like I was emotional after, and I said to them, well, that meant to me to go back there and for you to put on this display of football. Honestly, it was beautiful. For me as a coach, it was the way they played, it was beautiful.
Yeah. What's the difference emotionally between coaching and playing? Does it matter more when you...
Yeah.
It has to. Yeah, I mean, I've asked this question.
Yeah. As a player, you can go home and you can kid yourself a bit as well. If you've lost the game, you go, well, I played all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember going, I scored. That's what my 9-year-old does now.
Good
they got
lad.
beat 5-1. We went, yeah, but I scored the goal.
Well, there you go. It's all about...
I said, you have to defend every now and again.
Because the thing is, you know what? When you finish your career as a goal scorer, they don't go, yeah, but that goal was in a 3-1 loss. No, it just counts on your list.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
so he's got the right idea, but
Yeah.
it means, you go home and think about, because it's I always think it's like it's an extension of you on the pitch. And I think teams very much represent the character of their leader. Yeah. So if you look at Fergie, they were relentless. The Man United team under Alex Ferguson, they were relentless winners. They did what it took. The late winners, they just kept going. You look at Roberto Martinez at Swansea. That Tony Pulis at Stoke, it was gritty, it was hard. It was
not your style.
Yeah, it's not mine, but I had so much respect for it because it was so difficult.
Yeah.
So difficult to play against. And there is no right or wrong way. That was his. And I've seen Tony at the training ground a few times. His grandson plays for Southampton. He lives down there. And he's a lovely guy.
I bet
we probably don't see the game in the same way, but I have so much respect for him. But his team, you knew what you were going to get from his team. So I think I've been games where I've been so happy and we've lost. And there's been games where I'm not very happy and I've won. Because I need to feel connected. But that's just me and how I am.
Where do you think that comes from? That
I don't know. I'm an idealist and I'm an optimist. I always have been from a very young age. But I just need to feel like I'm very much based on feeling and intuition with the players as well, which is difficult for some of them at first when they think I'm an absolute weirdo and then they get to know me. And
are you a weirdo? Are you a bit?
I think we're all a bit different, aren't we? But in terms of football, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, is it the thing that the kind of vegan thing? And
I've just always been curious. So I see it as curious.
Yeah. What about the Buddhist side? Is that?
Well, I try and take that forward. I practice for a long time. Yeah. I don't chant so much. So when I used to room with people, and that I'd go in the bathroom and they'd be like, Gilly's my assistant now, and he roomed me at Norwich. And he said the first time I'd done that, he said he nearly walked out of the room.
What did you do? Chanting?
I used to chant a bit. Yeah.
How's it go? Go on.
You want to chant with me? I used to chant for a long time. But I really believe in the principles of it. So I'm not I don't think I'm really religious. It's not that. It's the concept of just karma, really. I haven't grown up in a certain environment.
Do you think that side of things helps you in the role you now?
Sometimes. I think it's a beautiful thing when the players can really open up to me, but I think it makes it harder sometimes as well. Yeah. Because then I have a certain feeling towards them that I've seen. I've seen a level of vulnerability, so now maybe I feel more favourable towards them. And I've got to be aware of that bias. So it's... I wouldn't change that, but I think it does sometimes make it much easier and sometimes it makes it more complex as well because they've shown a side to me sometimes they don't want me to see or like they perceive as a weakness or whatever. So it changes a little bit and I have to almost make sure that they know and give them credibility and validation that it's fine to show that.
Yeah, in terms of man management, are you an arm around the shoulder kind of guy or do you believe that different players need handling in different ways? Some need a kick up the backside.
I'm really honest with the players, really honest. I think that's so important. And when I started MK, I was like, I'm going to be really honest. And then was kind of honest. Does that make sense? I'd always try and caveat with a good point or it actually made it so much more difficult for me because then the player would go, well, you said this. So they'd hold on to one thing. I'd try and take them out of the team, but then say one positive thing and then they'd hold on to that.
How hard is it leaving players out of the team?
It's worse.
I've always thought that that's why I knew I would never be able to be a manager. I'd just go, I can't, I'm not playing this week, I'll play next week.
Even at Saints this year, I had to leave 6 or 7 players that had all played in the Premier League out of the squad because the squad was massive. So that's difficult. And I find that being the person to take the opportunity away from them or the hope of playing is so difficult because I know how tough it is being a footballer and how much you want to play. But I always stress to them, don't let, whether you're in the team or out of the team or we're winning or we're losing, don't let that affect your life and how you treat people because it's my opinion. It's not personal. Yeah. So you can't let my opinion on this game affect your life. Yeah. You can only do what you can do in here. And I always say to them, if we're one-on-one, I say, do you think you've trained? If it's about effort or they're feeling a bit sorry for themselves, do you think you've given everything? Is there more?
You're a hard taskmaster.
I think I'm really demanding on the training pitch But it's the only thing I expect for them is to try their very hardest on the training pitch.
Well,
outside of
it's
that,
the wish you can expect.
yeah, I think, but it's not a given.
I know.
I think people make the mistake of it being a given, so it's not. So, and I think, but then when I come off the pitch, I'm done. Then I'm going to treat you as a person. I think sometimes that's difficult for some players because I will be shouting them 1 minute and 10 minutes later having a joke with them in the canteen and they're a bit like, what? So I need to be aware of that as well. So I'm intense. When I work, I'm intense, which is why people, when I've been out of a job, they go, "God, he must be tearing the walls down at home." And it's like, no, I'm quite a relaxed person.
Yeah.
But at work, I'm this.
Full on.
Yeah.
Committed. Totally. How Southampton? Did that just come out of the blue as well, a little bit like Swansea did, or?
No. So Swansea, we had a really difficult transfer in January, and I sort of had a bit of a disagreement with the owners.
You didn't feel like you'd been backed enough?
No, not at all. And I felt like the club was so ready. If we had a bit more support, we could really build on what we were doing.
Yeah.
But it was a lack of clarity, I think. Not the fact we weren't getting support. There was changing the ownership, changing the sporting director, chief exec, and all this. It was all just happening around, and I wasn't part of any of it. And then we had a year left on our contract, and 3 or 4 clubs approached my agent and wanted to speak to me because of the work we'd done there. And then I spoke to Jason Wilcox at Southampton, and straight away I realised we're so aligned.
Did you have an interview?
Yes.
I'm going to say, would that have been your first ever interview for a job?
Yeah, I think Swansea was kind of an interview.
Apart from the toilets.
I think Swansea had whittled down to me, basically. They'd interviewed loads and someone had turned it down and then it'd gone, all right, we have to go with this guy because he ticks a lot of the boxes. So I did present, but it was done already almost. So that makes sense. We were just getting a feel for each other. With Jason, it was a thorough interview there. Yeah. They sent what they wanted me to interview on and present on.
Do you prepare for that?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
I just wondered how because I've obviously never been involved. I asked Sean Dyche the same question about how do you go into something, and he said it's very different once you everyone knows who you are, but when you're first starting out, so you've got to. I suppose it's quite easy to showcase because you know your style of play, you know what you want to do, but I suppose you also have to tell them that I know who your players are and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I don't think I was their first choice by a long way, but then after the first conversation, I felt, I've got a chance. Yeah.
Did you do a PowerPoint kind of thing? Or?
It was a keynote, It was too long. We ran out of time. So then I had to go back. So that was perfect. Oh, wow. Yeah. But so they gave me, to be fair, Jason was really clear on what he wanted me to present on. Yeah. And then, so I went there armed with that and a lot of other stuff on my laptop. And I went for another interview with another club actually. And as I walked in, another manager walked out, which was quite awkward. And we were literally the polar opposite of style. So I thought this is probably not going to be the club for me, but Saints one I really enjoyed, and I was really aligned with Jason from day one.
And the style of football as well.
Yeah, because he'd been at City for however many years in the academy, and he really believed in a certain way. So I think straight away we connected, and we just spoke football for 2.5 hours and nothing else. And the next time we met was more about culture and leadership and having to deal. What did I think of the current squad at Southampton and which players would? He was really honest. These players are going to go. We need to sell these players. So with what you're left with. What do we do? You instilled your style. That's the first thing you did. I've got a couple of amazing stats, really. You had a 25-game unbeaten run in the Championship. And you 566 passes complete in the first half of your win against Sheffield Wednesday. That's a league record. So there's some amazing stuff in there. And then some even more mad stuff about the top 5 leagues in Europe, time in possession, second Man City ahead of you, Barcelona behind you, which is quite something. 4th in successful passes into the box, 3rd. That's the European top 5 leagues. So you must be proud of that sort of thing. I look at that and I think that is a successful style of play, but boy, you must be missing out a top-class centre-forward because otherwise you'd be banging in loads more goals. And it's difficult for you to say. Well, we scored the second most goals in the end. Yeah. So once it started, in the Championship, once it opened, in the Championship. And then I'm really proud of what they did because it was very different to what they'd done. We'd lost 19 players, which the club needed to. And the change was massive for all of them in terms of the environment, the way we trained. And after losing 4 games in a row early on, Again. Yeah. Well, the problem was we won 3 and drawn 1 of the first 4. And because you're Southampton, you just come down, everyone thinks it's going to be easy. And then the transfer window got closer to an end and it was carnage. So everyone was in a position of we still had 6 or 7 players that were starting, thinking they were going to leave, going to the Premier League. Because everyone does. I've been there as a player at Norwich, when you get relegated, you think, probably might end up in the Premier League, someone might take me. Yeah. So the transfer window that month was so long, and we lost 4 games on the back of so much uncertainty. So I wasn't surprised. Yeah. But for them to claw back the way they did and the run they went on the players, I'm so proud. And the way they did it, the way it looked, the way they played football, they were incredible.
How do you change a team's style of play like that? How do you actually go about working out how you pass the ball through a team? I'm sure people actually, because when I played, you basically have 5-a-sides. That's all you do. 5-a-sides. You do corners on a Friday, and get on with it. We played 4-4-2.
Really
everyone played the same. I played with some really good players. It helps, but how do you go about putting in your own particular style? Because that's what you've done. It's it's been played in other parts of the world, but it's not particularly. As I said before, it's not particularly a British style of football.
So, day one at Swansea, showed them a video of MK and said, I'm not going to show you any of my old team again, but just so you have an idea, is a 4-minute video of how the game's going to look for us and how we're going to ask you to play. So it was like a couple of minutes in possession, a couple of minutes out of possession, and then sort of just explain to them why I believe in it, why I think it'll be good for them. Because I think you need to convince players individually why it will be good for them and why it will work for them. And for me, if you can show you can run and press, hunt the ball, and then be really brave and dominate the ball and do things with it that you maybe don't get a chance to in other styles of play, then surely it's the best way for you to maximise your potential earnings, your capability as a football player, and hopefully the vulnerability and courage it takes as a person to accept that sometimes. So I'm really clear on it. And I did the same at Southampton. I showed them some Swansea. I said, I'm not going to show it again. This is why we've got the job. This is why I'm here. This is why I've been asked to come here. And this is how it's going to look for you. And by the way, at both clubs, I said about the stuff they did previously and how well they did it. So I'm not going to, at Southampton, I'm not going to come in and change their high press, because to dominate the ball, you need to press high. So I want you to do all of that, but it's going to look a bit different.
Yeah. Part of your game is pressing as well, though, isn't it?
People forget that to dominate the ball, you need to press high and you need to get the ball back quickly. Otherwise, you can't have 60% of the ball, which all the teams have had. But for some reason, it's, when I get questioned about it from people a lot, it's like, you can't have both.
I'm about to do that.
You can't have both, but I really believe you can.
Yeah.
Because to have the ball, you need to be able to press high and counter press and take the ball a lot.
Yeah. So you get promoted, you get through the playoffs, and you get in the Premier League, and it's obviously it's a massive jump, and it's not going well. You've found it very difficult. I mean, you've played some really good football. The stats were still really, really impressive, but it's not happening. And the critics are saying, Alan Shearer's one of them. He says, well, you can't stick with that way. It's not going to work. They're giving away goals. What's your answer to the critics on that?
My answer would be, after a year and a bit of working with the players and believing so much in something, convincing them of something, to then go, by the way, you're not good enough to do this now, and so we're going to have to change. And I think they've changed manager, which means they've changed style quite a bit, and it hasn't really improved. So then what do if I went in and said,
well, it's got worse.
And people would say maybe you could have been a bit more pragmatic in the build, and then played a bit more. But it's but if we don't have this bit in the Premier League control, we're never going to gain control. So my feeling is, I've learned a lot. Or would I do things differently? No. In terms of build up and trying to dominate the ball, I think
you just tweak things.
Yeah, it was the only way.
Micah was always saying that you just tweak a few things.
Yeah.
But it's not that easy, is it? I suppose if you've got an absolute way of playing that you thoroughly believe in, it's hard to.
I changed formation too much. Searching for something.
You did, yeah.
But the concept doesn't change. No. So this is my point. In English football, it needs to be this way or that way.
Yeah.
But for me, it's it's a concept of the game. It's not formulaic. It's not like this guy passes to this guy and then we do this. It's not a set pattern. It's you recognise where the space is or the spare man is, and we'll take territory as quick as we can. Sometimes it'll take 20 passes, sometimes one. But you need to feel it, and we need to live it, and we need to do it together and work out. Yeah. But the problem was we weren't winning. So rather than being really consistent with the shape, this is how we're going to defend, I was overthinking a bit and going, we need to change shape for this game because of this. There was brilliant bits with the lads, but we weren't. And then all of a sudden you're chasing your tail again and, we're going to City away, so we're going to play a back five. Yeah. And it looked great at times, but then once we broke through City's press, which we did a lot, and Pep Guardiola was amazingly complimentary because we broke through their press a lot, and speaking to a couple of players after, they were surprised by the level of capability with the players, the way we played through them. But because we defended in a five, we had two fullbacks playing wing back at the top end of the pitch. We couldn't finish it off. So there's always the balance was a bit skewed. So that's what I've learned.
I mean, you learn as you go in football all the time. Is it one little regret of those things? Would you just stuck perhaps with the the one system right throughout?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And I think it would have given us something more tangible to look back on, because the moments and the concept of the game look brilliant a lot.
I suppose it's easy in hindsight. I suppose when you're actually living it and you lose and you lose and you lose.
And it was frustrating because there were so many good bits.
Yeah.
And you just feel like you're chasing it. You just need that one. You're always looking for that one moment and all that stuff. But yeah, definitely a bit more
ultimately though, and I'm not don't want to be disrespectful to the players, but ultimately, there's not enough quality there at Southampton, is there, to stay up?
I think I love them boys, so I'm never going to do them disservice. But I think our squad was weaker in the Premier League than it was in the Championship. We lost some really key players.
Yeah. And
that was really a problem for us.
And I think that's what we're seeing now as well. I mean, even a club like Leicester that got promoted, who, had done really well in recent seasons, they had to sell one of their best players, Dewsbury Hall, because he's a local lad as well. Yeah. So you get, and
he was brilliant. He was brilliant. He was the best player in the Championship this season. Brilliant.
Yeah, he really was. Of the Southampton players that you had, I think there's a lot of talk and a lot of interest around Tyler Dibling. How good can he be?
It's so hard, isn't it? Because when I was there, I had to balance, not give him too much, try and play it down a lot. And I don't want to make things more difficult for him, but he's the most talented player I've ever seen.
That you've ever seen or you've worked with? That you've worked with?
Yeah. So seen live, seen on the training pitch. And so I worked with James Maddison at that age at Norwich. He was outstanding. And Tyler has every capability to go and play for England and at the top level for a very long time, because he's powerful, he's really quick, both feet, can shoot, no back, bang, bang. I worked with Harry Kane at 21 when he came on Norwich on loan as well. Physically, the stuff I've seen him do at 18 in the Premier League, people just bouncing off him and being put on the floor when he dribbles with the ball. He has something I'm not seen in a British player for a long time, to play in the middle of the park and to be able to take the ball and swivel and go.
What's his position?
He'll play as a number 8 or a 10 eventually.
Yeah.
But he's 18.
That's the only thing with England. There are a lot of those.
Yeah, so we played him out wide and he was incredible. So he can play wide. He can play wide. We played him as false 9 in pre-season. He was our best player. It was my fault for not playing him the first few games in the Premier League. So I thought he needs a bit more time. He should have played on pre-season 4. And he's an amazing young man, but he needs the right style of play in the right environment to really thrive, I think.
I suspect someone will grab him in the summer.
I don't think it'd be cheap for them, but I think it'd be worth every penny. And I think when I went into the club, everyone told me he's the one to look for. And the development in him in a year, because he trained with us a lot. But I sent him in from training a few times.
How did he handle the difficulties of the season?
Well, I sent him in from training a few times in the first year. So when we were getting promoted from the Championship, and it wasn't about talent. We needed to get promoted, and we had a group of men, more experienced players that were really ready. So we played Tyler in a couple of cup games. One of them he was brilliant, the next one not so great. And it's young, of course, but it was about the demands of what's expected. So if you're going to play for this team, you need to run all the time. Yeah. So all what you do with the ball is amazing, but you need to be able to do the other side as well. And by the time we'd left, his best trait right now is he is carefree. So before the game, his debut against Man U, I said to him, "You feeling all right?" He was on his phone, top off. He's a machine, just like he wears his socks really low and he's there. And I was just saying, "You all right?" He's like, "Yeah, great." And he's on his phone until the very last second before they walk out. If he can keep that and someone can harness him in terms of where he goes next and the position he's going to play and the expectation on him, honestly, he's incredible talent. And the players in the dressing room. So I speak to Adam Lallana, and Adam Lallana was like, and Adam's played with some really top young players, and he's like, "Tyler, you can just do things out of nowhere that people are like, wow. Yeah, it is wow moments. He gets bums off seats. Every time he got the ball at Saints for an 18-year-old kid, even when we're in a game we were struggling, you can feel the excitement, the anticipation. And I don't think there's many players that are capable of doing that. So I hope that doesn't get taken out of him. And also hope he ends up whether it's at Southampton with the right coach or if he moves, he ends up with the right person to really understand him and allow him to be, just how he's a lovely boy.
Exciting. What have you learned going ahead? Because obviously you've said already you want to get back into it. Yeah. What have you learned and taken out of that experience, perhaps the only negative experience of your managerial career?
I've learned a lot so I think we can refine a lot of the things. We can be better at a lot of the things. And when you're in it all the time, it's the first time I've had a chance to step back and zoom out a bit and go, what do we really do well? What do we look like? Am I happy? So I'm really happy after 5.5 years that I think I'm like as authentic as I can be. And I believe in the same things. So I know at the start I wasn't I'm not miles away from where I started, if that makes sense. I think I speak to a lot of managers and they have this idea at the start. And even during this period, I spoke to some managers who've lost their job and they want to chat. And because I'm really clear on what I want and what I believe in. And some are still trying to so I had a few chats with people about that. So I'm not far away from where I started off at all. In fact, I've probably gone a bit more extreme than I would have done at the start, because you work out during the process, like what works, what's good. So I'm pleased about that. But it's stuff we can definitely do better. And I think I need to do everything I can to get to a level to showcase that again and to really show people that it can work, and not necessarily just with the best players.
I'm going to say it must be the dream for someone like you to work with the best players. I mean, imagine being like England coach, for example, and having that incredible plethora of talent that England have got at the moment, and the way you play, how you could...
Oh, I'd love it,
That would be, something like the ambition further on.
Yeah, I think so. I've not... 5.5 years ago when I set out, I was just like, I'm going to enjoy it and do it in the way that I want to do it and see where it takes us. And now I've had a taste of the Premier League. Of course, I want to get back there. And I believe I can. Yeah. Having coached against these people, I believe I can do it.
You said earlier you didn't think you were a good player, but I think you're a good coach.
Yeah, I think so, without sounding... No, I'm humble enough to know that I've got so much to learn and I need to be so much better in so many ways. But I think, hopefully, if you spoke to a lot of the players I've coached for, they would tell you that. And I think like the one thing that someone said to me at the start when I managed was a bit of advice from one of my mates, is that they're not going to remember you winning 1-0 away to Scunthorpe or whatever. They're going to remember how you made them feel. So 20 years down the line, when I get together with all my mates, my old teammates, and we'll talk about the manager or we'll see him, we don't remember the nitty-bitty, like the detail, the nitty-gritty bits. We remember how they made us feel. And I'd hope I make my players, when we work with them, and not everyone, of course, it's never going to be... But hopefully the majority of the players feel like they're connected to something and they believe in it and they learn something, hopefully.
That would have been a lovely way to finish, but I've got a couple more questions. You said you've been approached by 1 or 2 clubs, you've turned them down. Is there any interest looking ahead to, well, I suppose the idea is you didn't really want to take a job probably now unless it was something amazing, because it's a weird time of the season, isn't it? I presume you'd want to do pre-season, wouldn't you? With a new club.
That time has been... So we didn't have it at Swansea in the first year, so we were playing catch-up throughout the season. That's why we got better and better. But that time at Southampton, being in from day one and coaching 30 players, knowing that half of them are probably going to leave, but giving everyone as much energy as possible was so important. Yeah. I think if we didn't have that foundation, it would have looked very different. So I hope, to be back in day one of pre-season somewhere.
I suppose also has to be the right club with, there's certain clubs that, I don't know, play in a certain way. Or they need to be quite close to where...
I think cultural context is really important. I think people forget that in football a lot. Yeah. So like the culture of the club, what it's about, what it's been used to. I'm not sure there's certain clubs I could go into and ask for real patience when the goalie's standing on the ball for 25 seconds and they want it put forward quickly because that's what they've been used to. So I'm aware I've probably limited my job options somewhat, but hopefully I think...
But you wouldn't if you were a foreigner, because a lot of foreign coaches think that way and play that way, high press, a lot of possession. But I think it's quite unusual for an Englishman or Scotsman,
British
person to come in and do that. That's kind of my point. But I suppose a couple of chairmen have gone, right, actually this is not only do we get this kind of expansive, really stylish football, but we also get a homegrown coach who, knows the individuals and knows how they think because he's from the same place.
Yeah, possibly. I hope so. And I'm really aware that the next venture might be abroad as well. I'm really open to that. Yeah, I think I want to do that at some point.
Long-term ambition. Final question. What's the dream?
To manage at the highest level, to manage in the Champions League and to manage... And to do it in our way, hopefully. We'll see.
And win.
It's a long way off.
And win.
And win, of course.
It's not necessarily a long way off, is it, in management? Because things can just happen like that, can't they? Mm-hmm. Well, it's been an absolute delight talking to you. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Goodbye from me.